guys, welcome back to another YouTube video. Now in today's video, guys, I am going to be doing a movie review on the two Ghost Rider movies, but first, I do have some announcements to make. First of all, for upcoming videos, as you know, I announced this in the last few videos, we're obviously going to be having some new rankings, a new killer tier list, a new worst to best Halloween films. When the movie does come out, I'm going to watch it as soon as I possibly can and get the video out as soon as I can, as well as a new Diary of a Wimpy Kid book ranking. The book comes out at, I believe, the end of the month, like October 26th. So I will read that as much as I possibly can and get that video out for you guys as well. So those are upcoming videos. Now, as far as shorter videos, like movie reviews and DVD discussion videos, I can't really tell you what I'm going to do at this point. But as far as DVD videos, I guess, I might make a DVD gameplay once the update comes out, which will be in a few weeks here. But chances are I'll probably play a bunch of matches with the new update and then do the killer tier list first once I kind of get the feel for all the changes and I finally come down to my final decisions for where everything goes. But yeah, a lot of the upcoming videos are now going to be bigger videos, so I would say stay tuned, but I don't think there's really going to be too many videos coming out in the near future. But the videos that will be coming out are going to be really, really good. So make sure you stay tuned so that you can see those new rankings that will possibly be coming out. So this is probably the last quick video that I'm going to be making. Other than that, read the community post that you can stay updated with any future content. And join the Discord. The link will always be in the description of every video. Other than that, let's get on to the movie review. Right off the bat, I just want to say that I might have a little bit of a bias with the rating of these two films, since these were my two childhood Marvel movies, despite these being pre-MCU Marvel movies. Spirit of Vengeance did come out in 2012, but MCU was just starting to pick up a lot of attention and stuff like that. So although these are pre-MCU movies, which a lot of the pre-MCU Marvel movies aren't really the best Marvel movies, I do have a little bit of bias on the rating. So if you have seen these movies, just tell me your opinion in the comment section down below. Just don't, get it heated and say, well, you're an idiot because you gave this a really good rating and I think that these two movies are terrible. I totally understand why you could think that. These two movies just happen to hold a special spot in my heart because I grew up watching the two Ghost Rider movies. I enjoyed the heck out of them. Rewatched them about a week ago and I still have a good opinion about these two. So yeah, I just wanted to get that out of the way. But for those of you who have not seen these movies and you have no idea what I'm talking about, basically Ghost Rider is about a guy named Johnny Blaze who is like a motorcycle stunt performer. And his dad was living an unhealthy life because he was smoking a lot, but he also helped his kid in stunt performances as well. He did some of the stunt performances when he was a kid. And he learned that his dad was suffering from a cancer when he found this document that his dad was trying to hide from him. So the devil just so happened to find him one day, and he made a deal with the devil for his dad to be healthy again. But the devil kind of tricked him, and his dad died the next day from a tragic motorcycle accident. And he was mad at the devil, but the devil gave him the power of the Ghost Rider, who basically gets revenge on people who have committed crimes against the innocent by showing them the pain of the innocent and sending them to hell, basically. So that's the whole concept of Ghost Rider. Both of the two films have a formula just like that. Now, it's kind of confusing how these two films work because a lot of people suggest that the Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance is a sequel to the first Ghost Rider, but it's kind of awkward because it obviously occurs after the first Ghost Rider film, but it has different things that contradict what the first Ghost Rider said. So I'm not really sure if this is a sequel or it's supposed to be a standalone film. I'm assuming they were going for a sequel, but if that's the case, they're kind of in a weird position because this film contradicts a lot of the things that we learned from the first Ghost Rider film. So I don't know. I like to suggest that the Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance is a sequel to the first Ghost Rider, but it certainly takes on a completely different storyline, plot, and tone than the first film. Now, that doesn't mean that they just completely throw away what the first Ghost Rider said. It's just there's a few things that they changed here and there that change Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance significantly from the first Ghost Rider. I don't know, it's kind of confusing, but what are my opinion on the two? First, let's talk about the first Ghost Rider that came out in 2007. So the first Ghost Rider, positives on this film. Let me think here. I thought that for both of these films, I think a good positive is that Nicolas Cage, you know, you wouldn't think that Nicolas Cage would be good for a superhero movie, but I think he actually did a pretty good job playing Ghost Rider in both of these films. He definitely added a nice comedic relief to these films that isn't overwhelming like a lot of the new MCU movies, but I'm happy that they added humor into a pre-MCU movie. And I'm very surprised that they found out that that was a good idea for Marvel movies, is that humor is really good for the audience as long as you don't have an overwhelming amount of humor. And I just wish that the MCU would take Ghost Rider as an example of that, because Ghost Rider has the perfect balance of humor and suspense and all that. And the humor does not get in the way of the suspenseful moments where you're really focused, and the last thing you want to hear is a joke that cracks in the middle and you're just like, well, this scene isn't really that serious, so why should I care? I should just laugh, right? So yeah, that definitely doesn't ruin this film. I thought Eva Mendes did a pretty good job in this film as well, although she was just kind of there. I don't think she was needed, but she was just kind of a big actor that I think they threw in there so that people would come and watch the movie. Anything else that I like? I'm not really sure what to think about the pacing for this film. I think it's a good pace now that I think about it. I don't think they rush him getting to the conflict that much. The movie doesn't stretch way too far, so I think the pacing is pretty good. Now let's get on to the few negatives that this movie has. First of all, the CGI does kind of bother me in this film. When you're looking at Ghost Rider a lot of times in this film, it just sticks out to you, and a message pops up in your head and you're like, yeah, that's CGI, and it just sticks out to you, and I don't like when it does that. So I can't really blame them that this is 2007 and obviously the CGI wasn't the best, but it just sticks out like a sore thumb. And the CGI doesn't look terrible by any means, it just sticks out and you're just like, yeah, that's CGI right there. And it kind of makes, you know, some of what are supposed to be the suspenseful moments a little bit humorous, because you're just laughing at the kind of terrible CGI that this movie has. So yeah, that's one negative. I guess a second negative that I could go off of is the villain isn't that bad. I think he's okay, not enough to make it like a big bonus for this film. I don't think the villain's that fantastic or interesting. He doesn't deliver any lines where you're like, whoa, that's pretty deep, man. Like, no, it just doesn't happen. But his accomplices are certainly just there for Ghost Rider to kill, and I don't like that, because we just go through the movie and Ghost Rider is just killing off of his accomplices like they're a chick. I don't know what analogy to make. He just kills his accomplices like they're a piece of cake, and I don't know. I wish that his accomplices would be a little bit more of a threat to Ghost Rider throughout the film, rather than Ghost Rider just steamrolling his way through the film until we get to the final action sequence where he finally has a challenge. So the final battle, I guess I forgot to mention, isn't that bad. I don't think it's lived up to, you know, waiting for, you know, a really, really good moment, because especially after Ghost Rider rolling through the film, I don't think we get paid off fully with the final battle sequence. I wish it was a little bit better. You know, a little bit more hands being thrown here and there. I don't literally mean hands being thrown, I mean metaphorically. The final battle sequence is okay. At least it's not like Ghost Rider does one little thing to him and he dies. In fact, there's a moment in the film where Ghost Rider actually encounters the villain, fails at killing him, and then he has to go back to him at the final battle sequence. And then the ending is okay. I don't think it's like, wow, I'm so surprised. Like, it's not like some kind of twist ending where you're like, whoa, he's making that decision. It doesn't really make sense, I guess. Like, he basically decides to keep the Ghost Rider power by trying to kill the devil, I guess. Like, I don't really know. The ending is kind of confusing, and I think that the director was trying to make you feel surprised about the ending, but it ended up making me kind of confused about the ending. So, what would I give this film for a rating? I think it is certainly above average. It certainly holds a good spot in my heart as one of my favorite Marvel movies, and definitely made Ghost Rider one of my favorite Marvel characters, who's holds an interesting spot in the Marvel universe, because he's not really a villain, nor he's not a villain nor a hero. He's an anti-hero who just happened to make a bad mistake, and now he has to commit to doing what he did when he was a young kid. I don't know. I'm just confusing you guys. But what should I give this film for a rating? I think I'm going to give it above a 5. So I'm going to give this movie... This is really difficult. I think I'm going to give it a 5.5 out of 10, because it's certainly not the most incredible Marvel movie out there. Not really the most suspenseful. There's not really the best action sequences in this film. But I can't give it a terrible score, because I enjoyed the heck out of this movie as a kid, and I still do, because, you know, I watched this movie and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember seeing that scene when I was a little kid or whatever. So, yeah, Ghost Rider, I think I'll give it a 5.5 out of 10. Not anything too exciting, but certainly not below average either. Next up, Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance. What are some of the positives about this film? First of all, the CGI, a lot better. Obviously, it's 2012, and it doesn't stick out, and it doesn't really bother you. Nicolas Cage, I think, did still a pretty solid performance. Not as good as his first one, but I think it's still pretty solid. He still cracks a few jokes in the movie. Not jokes, but he adds humor to the film. We get, I forget what the guy's name is. We get another big name. Oh, yes, Idris Elba is in this film, and I think he made a pretty good performance as Leroy. I think that's who he played as. I think the villain in this film was surprisingly better than Blackheart, even though he doesn't really have any powers until the second half. I think he was just kind of more interesting. He seemed more evil because he didn't have powers. He was just a guy who was chasing after his ex-girlfriend because the child is like the son of the devil. I don't really know his reasoning, but he just seems a little bit more evil because, well, he's just a normal guy. He doesn't have any powers, and it just makes you kind of feel for the mother and the son in this film, who have been running their whole life because this sick ex-boyfriend will not, stop chasing them or whatever, for whatever reason. I can't exactly remember. But basically the plot of this film is now Nicolas Cage is hiding in Europe because obviously he committed some crimes in the first film. And Leroy, who is Idris in this film, he tells him that to get rid of Ghost Rider, because he's getting tired of Ghost Rider coming out every night. That if you save this devil child, the Ghost Rider will, it won't be a part of your soul. You'll get your soul back, basically, because you take your soul away in turn for the Ghost Rider's spirit or power. So if he saves the kid who's being chased by the villain of this film, he can get his soul back. But what ends up happening at the end of the film is throughout the film we learn about this Spirit of Justice, which was the original Ghost Rider, who was basically a better version of the Ghost Rider that we have now, which is Spirit of Vengeance, less villainy and more hero-like spirit. So at the ending of the film, by saving the child and sending the devil back to hell, he becomes the Spirit of Justice instead of the Spirit of Vengeance. So I guess we're supposed to think it's a good thing. So I guess it's a good thing. It's kind of cool to see it at the end of the film. I don't know. This is another thing where you have to watch the film to understand it, because me trying to explain it to you is just going to absolutely confuse you. So let me just talk to you about some of the pros. Once again, I think the villain is pretty good. I think the plot isn't terrible. Definitely fits for the film. It doesn't feel like some plot that they just throwed in and then they were just really trying to make money out of this film. On to the negatives, I guess, because I don't really have a whole lot of positives. The tone of this film, or of this movie, just kind of feels off for me. I don't know what it is. It just carries this kind of dark tone that I don't really like. So when you get these comedic moments, it's just really awkward, because you're like, that doesn't really fit the tone at all, though. So I don't know, at certain times in this film, it's really awkward when they try to tie in comedy, because the tone of this film just feels really dark and depressing, and just kind of quiet. It's not the kind of film that you would expect to have comedy in it, despite having some comedic moments that end up just being kind of awkward. So that's one of the things. The pacing of this film, I think that this film kind of drags along after the second half when the villain gets his powers or whatever. I don't know, maybe it's just because I was getting bored after the second half when I rewatched this. Well, I wasn't really getting bored, but I was getting tired. So when you're really tired and you're watching a movie, you know how that is. The movie just drags along. It feels like the movie is dragging along. But I think even if I watch this in the middle of the day, I feel like this movie does drag along. So I don't think the pacing is as good as the first film. Yeah, I think that's really all the negatives that I have to say that I can think off the top of my head. I'm probably missing a few. Ghost Rider has a few awkward moments in this film when he's doing like the penance stare, and instead of saying any words, he just kind of stares at the person and doesn't say anything, so it's kind of weird. But at least he talks. He's not going just completely silent the whole film. So yeah, I think that's really all I have to say. Watch this movie for yourself. I watched it. I can't really say give you all the reasons why I don't think this is the best film ever. So what will I be giving this film? I think I'll give it a 4.8 out of 10. Slightly below average. Certainly not a great film, but still holds a special spot in my heart, and I'll still continue to rewatch it because I loved watching this movie when I was a little kid and still enjoy watching it now. So yeah, overall, the first Ghost Rider does beat Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance, although I think that these two movies are pretty much in the same spot despite are pretty much feel the same. They have pretty similar scores, not a big difference. But overall, if you're to watch one of these movies, I definitely watch the first Ghost Rider, and you don't even really have to watch Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance. It's just kind of a standalone film. If you want to watch it, go ahead. But I would definitely recommend Ghost Rider 2007 over it. So, yeah, I think that's all I have to say. My mouth's starting to hurt, so that's it for the movie review. Stay tuned for the future content that will be coming out within the next few weeks and possibly next month. Read the community post so you can stay updated with any changes that could possibly be coming to the channel. And join the Discord. Link will always be in the description of every video. That's it. Like and subscribe, guys. And I'll see you next time.